I have a special mind-reading ability. I can hear the voices of people who don't love me. But on the night before my wedding, I suddenly heard my fiancée's voice. If she tries to steal my wedding tomorrow, it will be hard for me to escape. I kept quiet and boarded a flight to the countryside the next day. Later, that wedding turned into a joke all across the city. Both the bride and groom ran away. I've always had this unique skill. I can hear the inner voices of people who don't love me. Because of this, I can easily tell if someone's love for me is fake. I can quickly pull away from fake friends or sisters, and I can even stay indifferent to the confessions of the guy I secretly love. Even when buying durian, I listen to the vendor's inner voice to pick the one with the most flesh and sweetest taste, because I hear every word clearly. To avoid too much noise in my ears, I usually avoid eye contact with strangers in daily life. But when I first met Alan, the world was so quiet that only our conversation was clear. When our eyes met, I couldn't hear any inner voice. "Hello, is it convenient for us to get to know each other?" There was no inner voice during that moment. I couldn't read Alan's thoughts. When Alan was pursuing me, the voices in my ears were simple and pure. I believed he loved me, so we fell in love, dated, and talked about marriage for 2 whole years. I never read his inner voice until just before the wedding. Suddenly I heard Alan's voice. Because of the wedding, Alan had been very busy lately. He comes from a good family background, took over his father's position, and managed the Dew family's financial company on his own. Due to the busy schedule, we had very little time to meet in the past 2 months. But today, when we finalized our outfits, I felt a warm happiness in my heart. I thought this might be one of our rare moments together. When I arrived at the studio on time, he was already there, trying on shoes. He turned to tell the staff something, then walked out while talking on the phone, sounding very relaxed. I understood his business. It's not easy to run a company, especially when there's more than one heir in the Dew family. We looked at each other quietly, but suddenly, Alan's voice rang in my ears. Rena said, "We should wear sneakers tomorrow for the wedding." I froze when I heard it, staring at his mouth. After confirming that it was his inner voice, I didn't know how to react. It was hot outside, but a cold wave swept through my limbs, making me shiver. Hearing his inner voice made me realize what it meant. He was planning something. I saw a staff member nearby placing a pair of light sneakers into the wedding clothes, just as he instructed. Alan nodded at me and raised his legs to go outside. That was our silent agreement. He must have something urgent to deal with. But those words I heard weren't false. I never misheard them. My body moved almost on its own, instinctively. Ran forward, disbelief flooding me, and called out to Alan. I couldn't wait to read more of his thoughts. To understand what the man I was supposed to marry was really thinking. Why did he suddenly change his mind on the eve of our wedding? My call made Alan pause as he was about to get into the back seat, but it was just a brief pause. He turned around quickly, hurriedly explaining, then told the driver to step on the gas and drive away. "Sorry, there's a client emergency. I'd have to rush over," he lied. At that moment, I could clearly sense what he was thinking. I could tell Rena was angry from the voice on the phone. If I didn't coax her, she wouldn't. Let me go home tonight. I've never been a complaining woman who only thinks of herself. Instead of dwelling on it, I decided to take the initiative. I found a reason and secretly asked Alan's secretary to come out so I could get more information, using my mind-reading ability. Her name is Rena, and she's Alan's first love. Rena's the illegitimate daughter of the Yu family. Yu has never acknowledged her, so her position has always been awkward. Unfortunately, the elders of the Dew family broke up her relationship with her parents. Rena has strong self-esteem. After being humiliated, she abandoned Alan and ran away without a word. Alan fell in love with me at first sight, mainly because we had some similarities in our eyebrows. Now that his first love is back, he obviously doesn't need me as a substitute. Rena returned just when Alan was very busy over the past 2 months. The story was smooth and logical. After hearing all this, I couldn't help but shake my head and laugh. I never expected such a cliché substitute story to be applied to me. Rena wanted to use marriage as a way to claim Alan, to show he belonged to her, and also to retaliate against the title of wife I had held for so long. Alan also needed this chance to prove his unwavering love for Rena, to please his angry little wife, and to force the Dew family to accept Rena and me. This carefully planned wedding was just part of their scheme. Honestly, I was so furious I couldn't help but curse that night. The house lights were still on. The wedding was the next day, but I was busy packing my bags with no time to waste. 2 hours ago, I had booked a first-class flight abroad. They're all crazy, so I figured I'd be crazy too. Rena might steal Alan's marriage, but I could simply disappear from the world and escape the marriage. Luckily, my family had long settled abroad, and this wedding didn't involve many relatives or friends. I only invited a few close friends. Here in China, at first I thought the two families had already met at the engagement, and we'd hold another wedding abroad to avoid the language barriers for relatives and friends. That way, I could easily escape the marriage. I briefly told my best friend Cassie about my plan. She silently took the packing box from my hand, her face serious. I couldn't read her mind, and seeing her reaction wasn't great, so I asked, "Cassie, are you going to stop me?" Cassie rolled her eyes and replied unhappily, "Mississippi, I brought you a sack of urea. It's durable for storing things." I suddenly remembered that Cassie's family deals with pesticides. On the wedding day, Alan and I dressed in wedding gowns to welcome guests from afar. This time, Alan's voice was so loud it gave me a headache. "Is Rena here?" I can finally be with Rena. I've waited 3 years. She's finally going to be my wife. He seemed to believe Rena would finally see that his heart was true. I frowned and kept glancing at Alan, feeling a cold chill, but he didn't show it on his face. He still looked at me with his gentle, elegant expression. "Zoe, you don't look very well. Why don't you go to the lounge to rest? I'll handle the guests outside and you can come in for the wedding later, okay?" Honestly, it was almost time for me to find an excuse to slip away. As I was about to change into casual clothes, I ran into Rena at the door. Because we looked so similar and I could read her mind, I recognized her immediately. I held Cassie's arm, who was dressed as a bridesmaid and ready to confront her, and pretended I didn't see her. "Are you Alan's friend? Come quickly, hour. Wedding will start in a few hours?" Rena's smile suddenly froze, as if she was annoyed that I called Alan so intimately. Her words became even more sarcastic. "Miss Zoe, sorry, but we're wearing the same dress today." If someone who doesn't know sees this, what would they think? "I am the bride today." Rena's arrogant inner voice echoed in my ears, and at the same time she laughed. "In 3 hours your groom will run away from me. Will you still be able to laugh then?" I kept smiling, shook my head, and didn't care. I told the waiter to seat her somewhere. "Stupid woman," I said to myself. "Can't you see I'm here to cause trouble?" Just as we passed each other, Cassie couldn't help but complain to me. "Look at her arrogant look. It's really unbearable. Couldn't deny it. She's treating me like a joke." Now Alan is about to have his marriage stolen by her. Soon, she'll have the title of wife, finally get married, force the Doe family to accept her. The wedding venue was not far from the airport. I was sitting in the waiting room. The wedding hadn't started yet. I stared at my phone, waiting for the farce to begin. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The phone vibrated non-stop. Cassie excitedly refreshed the screen live broadcast. "Zoe, the wedding was really stolen." Damn, cheating, making it look like the cowherd and the weaver girl. How shameless. The ceremony officially started after just 5 minutes. Cassie sent me a video of the scene. According to the process, after Alan came on stage, the MC told a cheesy, exaggerated love story, and the bride was supposed to come out. But Rena, in a bold move, wanted to steal the wedding. At this crucial moment, she deliberately wore the same dress as the bride, stepped forward quickly, and grabbed the MC's microphone. Despite all the whispers from the audience, she kept talking about her love, her boldness making Alan's eyes turn red. "Alan, are you willing to go with me?" she asked loudly. The crowd erupted. This was a full-blown wedding robbery. On the wedding day, no less. The worst part? Alan nodded in agreement, looking touched. He walked over to Rena, took her hand, and said, "I do." Rena's vanity was fully satisfied. She looked like she wanted to give a speech, telling me she knew I liked Alan, but Alan loved her most, that he'd make it happen. In the video, Alan was wearing sneakers that didn't match his suit or dress. Rena, holding the microphone, couldn't hide her pride. She probably couldn't wait to see me in despair. She even thought about how she'd comfort me afterward. "Miss Zoe, I hope you can help Alan and me with this good story," she said. But then the atmosphere suddenly turned awkward. If the person who was supposed to be the bride wasn't there, the whole show would look like a farce. "Miss Zoe, Miss Zoe," Rena shouted several times, but no one answered. Finally, the etiquette officer opened the door. Only a white veil was discarded casually on the floor, symbolizing the bride's disappearance. The crowd suddenly grew noisy, and someone shouted, "Damn! The bride is running away from marriage." I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Of course I had to help. After all, I knew some of the guests. If they wanted to run away, I'd let them stand there and watch the joke. For free, I might as well enjoy it. I shook my head and laughed. Then a message and picture suddenly appeared on the big screen in red font. Escape statement. "Because Alan cheated on his mistress, Rena, I've decided to escape the marriage. I'll make this joke for you. Hope you two won't separate and won't go harming others." Below, there was a recent intimate photo of Alan and Rena. Cassie's message popped up. "Mission completed successfully." Seeing that, I sent the same statement on WeChat, which was also the last post in that account's circle of friends. The people at the scene immediately got furious, who had time to laugh at me now. The bigger joke was that they were still holding hands on stage. The bride had disappeared. Who cared whether Alan and Rena ran away? Rena just expressed her love on stage. She looked especially ridiculous, with the big red cheating word flashing on the screen. It was just a cover-up. For cheating? Cassie was so excited she practically jumped up. Then she played another video for me. In the clip, nobody paid attention to the two fools standing on the stage. The crowd was frantically searching for me. "Where's Zoe? Where's Miss Zoe? Where's the bride?" I couldn't get through to her on the phone. How could I find her? "Have you checked the lounge? The dressing room? The room upstairs?" "Everywhere," I yelled. "What are you all just standing there for? Hurry up, get moving." Even Alan's parents, who looked miserable, stood up eagerly and told the staff to find me. The guests also started to act. No one paid attention to the two people on stage anymore. Even the MC was asked to leave. Alan and Rena stood there awkwardly looking at each other like monkeys being paraded around, lost and confused. What's even funnier is that the audience was busy searching for Mitha missing bride and no one cared about the chaos unfolding on stage. The romantic, exciting scene Rena and Alan had planned turned into a mess, like a bunch of old folks grabbing free eggs at the supermarket. My sudden disappearance turned their perfect wedding into complete chaos. Whether I ran or stayed? No. One cared. The more I thought about it, the more I realized if I escaped, it wouldn't matter. If I stayed, it still wouldn't matter. It was almost time. I sent a quick message to Cassie on WeChat telling her to get ready to board. Then I briefed my parents, asking them not to share any of my personal info. I turned on flight mode and settled into the first-class cabin, enjoying the long 10-hour flight. As soon as I landed, Cassie's frantic message popped up. It looked like the follow-up was going to be quite the story. "Zoe, you're so cruel. You don't know what's happening in Hong Kong right now. Whole city's in chaos. All the relatives and friends of the Du family are here. Many are prominent figures. When you ran away from the wedding, everything went into chaos. Those two fools on stage took 10 minutes to walk down by themselves." I found it hilarious. Look at the trending searches now. The video's gone viral. People are calling them a crazy husband and wife. Just now, the idiot chased your villa when he saw you weren't there. He was so angry that he jumped at the door, pressing your doorbell like crazy beep, beep, beep. I was just about to leave when he caught up. That cheap man had the nerve to ask where I went. I told him you went abroad and didn't know anything else. It was so funny. He ran off in his sneakers as fast as he could. Cassie's breathless laughter told me how much trouble Alan was in this time. He didn't get the marriage, and he lost face in front of everyone. I wasn't surprised. Alan dared to do this because he knew I wouldn't make a fuss about the Du and Wei families. In the end, I quietly let the marriage fall apart. After all, the Wei family's assets are overseas, and the Du family wouldn't be too affected either. I saw this as an opportunity to force Alan's parents to accept Rena as their daughter-in-law. At this point, if they didn't, it would be embarrassing in front of so many guests. But Alan didn't expect. I'd run away from the wedding, tearing off that fake cover-up and shoving it into his and Rena's faces. Let them be in love if they want, but marriage is about endurance. The fairy tale days of Cinderella and the prince aren't just about the wedding day. What matters more is facing the daily grind, those tiring, mundane days. When you reach a dead end, it's time to turn around. I had escaped an unhappy marriage, so I wanted to celebrate by setting off firecrackers. My parents had settled abroad years ago, and their environment was open, free, and casual, focused on love and freedom. Moreover, Alan and I hadn't even gone through the official process of getting a marriage certificate. So from a legal standpoint, we weren't even husband and wife. When I asked to come back, my parents agreed very quickly. As soon as I got off the plane, they had already arranged for someone to pick me up. When I got into the car, Cassie was still excitedly telling me about what happened afterward. The wedding ended up being canceled. The guests left one by one, and only some staff members remained. Our family has a good relationship with the Dew family, so we stayed behind to comfort Alan's mother, who was so furious she could hardly stand steadily. Alan's mother was so angry she slapped Alan across the face. He deserved it, honestly. Everyone knew how much I'd helped him climb to the top. Rena is an illegitimate daughter, which is a shame for the Dew family. It's embarrassing that she ran away from the marriage publicly. Alan's father didn't even look at him. He just left. Only Rena was left crying beside him. When I left, I saw Rena crying and pestering Alan. "I'm not going to have a wedding anymore. I think I've lost face," she said. I sneered and thought, people who insult others will always be insulted in return. I told them I was waiting for their wedding, and if they really got married, I would sincerely bless them. The thing about first love is that even if she shows up in person, it often doesn't work. I think Alan will understand this truth sooner or later. Alan and I met at a charity dinner. Although our family assets had been transferred abroad, my parents and I are from Hong Kong. My parents are already old, and their health can't handle long international flights. I came back then for a business trip and to trace my roots, but I didn't expect to meet the man I believed I was destined to be with at that time. Alan called me over, holding a glass of red wine. He had a gentle smile and a cool demeanor. Because I can read minds, I rarely take the initiative to talk to anyone in such a noisy place unless necessary. The bar was too loud, and when Alan called me, my impatience was obvious. Strangely, I didn't hear any of his inner thoughts, maybe because it was too quiet. Gradually, I became patient and started talking to him. Later, when he confessed that he was so shy he didn't know where to put his hands and feet, I listened. "Zoe, I will treat you well for the rest of my life," he said softly. We looked at each other, but I couldn't read his heart, so I simply nodded, believing in his promise and willing to stay in the country and marry him. I never doubted his words then. But promises only truly matter when love is in your eyes. Rena and Alan's love story is really one of unrequited love and youth. Rena might not be as beautiful as Alan once imagined, and Alan might not love Rena as deeply as he thought. Love is most touching when it's unreciprocated. Half a month later, just after finishing Professor Parsons' design class, I got a call from Cassie. "Didn't I get the wedding invitation from that bastard a few days ago? Today I thought it was just a village banquet, nothing special." It wasn't as lively as the last time I went north to eat pig-killing dishes. Cassie, obviously a gossip reporter, rambled on. She told me about this sensational wedding that was held in a secondary hall. Many people didn't attend, including Alan's father. It wasn't like the original wedding at all. Only Alan's mother was there, looking grim. She drank her tea with a cold expression. She didn't even bother giving red envelopes. Called Rena Miss Rena when she spoke, and on stage, she scolded Rena to be obedient and to know her place. It was really unpleasant to hear the older generation scolding someone with culture. Rena was so angry she dropped her bouquet into the crowd. Alan had to coax both his mother and his wife at the same time. I almost burst out laughing. It's pretty normal. Given Alan's mother's personality, usually she wouldn't bother with the wedding at all. But Rena kept whispering in her son's ear, so she had no choice but to suppress her anger and show up. Before the wedding, Rena had already offended her mother-in-law, so I wondered how could she expect a good life ahead. I also heard that Rena had been making moves to put people into Alan's company recently. Once she got married, she felt more comfortable, especially since the Yu family also acknowledged her status, and her own business started to take off. It's good to have a big tree to lean on now. Kept thinking about how hard I worked to get resources for Alan, but now Rena has taken all the benefits. I hated it so much. I kept flipping through project info and chatting with Cassie with the speaker on, making sure I wasn't losing money. I've made quite a bit among them, but Alan's life isn't easy. He does have some authority, but the final decision still lies with his father. It's impossible for the Do Group to just be named after him in the end. Besides, there are more than one young man in the Do family, so it's really complicated. But I understand Alan's ambitions. This isn't just his company. I guess Rena is just playing her part, acting first and asking for permission later to put people in position. Thanks to the wedding, my domestic partners also learned about the feud between Alan and me, and they shared some info. Okay, for example, the Do family directly promoted Alan's cousin, and the pressure on him was obvious: love, career, everything. I guess Alan is really stuck in a tough spot. Cassie was clearly dissatisfied with my speech. What do you mean, Mercy? Still feels sorry for his life? So, are you going to give him some warmth? I raised an eyebrow. It's definitely impossible. I was wondering if I could use this as a chance to make some money. I thought, wow, I was in love, but I didn't expect Alan to be such a capitalist. Then, 2 months later, I suddenly got a call from Alan. Hearing his voice made me shudder. No wonder the professor refused to tell me the client's name. He always said it was an old acquaintance. Turns out it was Alan. My attitude towards him was pretty indifferent. I went abroad not to attend some funeral. In the business and social world, it's all so small, no barriers anymore. Alan just needs to spend more time looking for me. His hesitant attitude annoyed me, and I silently rolled my eyes. What does he mean? I don't have any old feelings to talk about with an ex who cheated on me. I'm kind enough not to wish him well. Just said hello because he's the client. I cut him off coldly, saying, if there's no problem, I'll introduce this project to Mr. Allen. Alan still seemed caught up in his own thoughts, talking about the past. Zoe, I'm sorry for what happened back then. I know I hurt you a lot. That's why you ran away and went abroad in anger. I'm sorry. Owe you an apology. I stayed silent for a moment, sighed, and asked, Mr. Allen, have you gotten what you wanted now? The other end of the line fell into a long silence. Then Alan's voice sounded tired. I don't know, Rena's very different from before. I almost doubt whether she's the same Rena I loved. Sorry, I shouldn't bother you now, but I just suddenly wanted to talk to you for a while. I attended a cocktail party today, and I suddenly thought of the days we fought side by side. I sneered and didn't want to prolong this mild conversation. Rena, if you know we're still in touch, it's not appropriate. Assistant, come here, someone said. Hard for you to talk to Mr. Allen. Let me introduce this project. I have other things to do. Excuse me. No matter how passionate first love is, over time, it becomes like sticky rice once. The blood is gone. It's tasteless. What once seemed insignificant, like a mosquito bite, can turn into a red mole. When you don't get what you want, no matter how much you loved someone, you'll miss the love you never had. As for Alan's confession, I could only think silently. He deserves it. I left the follow-up of the project mostly to my assistant, occasionally giving some guidance if I was unsure about anything. But I tried to avoid direct contact with Alan. I knew very well what he was thinking, but since he betrayed me once, I would never give him a second chance. My assistant went to China on my behalf and successfully secured the project. I also brought back some news. Mr. Allen asked me to tell you that he is divorced, when Rena stuffed someone into the company. I already had a vague idea, but I didn't expect it to happen so soon. Even when I sent a message to Cassie, she was a little surprised. I just found out too. How come you're so well informed? I curled my lips. He contacted me again about a project some time ago, and specifically asked my assistant to tell me about it. Cassie clicked her tongue twice and took over the conversation. Everyone knows Sima Zhao's intentions, but why is this guy still chasing you? Do you think of yourself as a spare tire? She said, disgusted. So disgusting. But Dina, why did they divorce? Rena played Alan around. She was married abroad to a foreign tycoon. and she came to China because she didn't get any money from her lawsuit with her stepson. When Alan's mother found out, her hands trembled with anger. Without saying a word, she slapped the photo of Rena on Alan's face. "Didn't you see it?" she snapped. Alan's face was so dark, it looked like it could drip water. She had done a lot of dirty things since she got married, and their relationship had become colder and colder, now that this was all exposed. Alan, the next day, someone was sent to draft a divorce agreement. Divorce is so straightforward now. I remembered that Alan had given up all his property to be with her. Now, after just a year of marriage, they're getting divorced. Thinking about his face back then, I guess he feels stupid. Suddenly, I remembered what Alan had told me at that time. Rena has changed. I thought that was funny. Rena may not have changed, but she simply didn't fit Alan's imagination anymore. The novelty faded, and true love slowly appeared. Aside from the project communications, Alan and I had no contact anymore. I was selectively blind to his emails or friend requests. He was good at using illusions to fall in love with a perfect image. It used to be Rena, and now it's probably me again. Let him be. I have my own new life now. As for Alan, he is just an old story. It's not worth mentioning. It wasn't until Cassie was preparing to get married that I returned to Hong Kong after many years. My daughter Laura also came back with me. My husband is a foreign Chinese. When I returned to China, he was doing scientific research in Antarctica. Otherwise, he would have come with me to the wedding. This time, after chatting with Cassie, Laura said she wanted to go to the children's playground in the nearby shopping mall. Thinking she had no playmates in China, I nodded and took her there. Laura was very excited, almost trotting all the way. I had a hard time chasing her in my high heels. Before she knew it, Laura bumped into someone at the corner. I hurriedly chased after her to check on her and comfort her. I'm sorry. The child is ignorant." "I hope she didn't hurt you," the person said, sounding surprised and familiar. I looked up Lin. To be honest, I didn't dare to be sure it was him until I looked more closely. I suddenly realized that this mall seemed to be owned by the Du family, so it wasn't surprising he was here. Whether it was his figure or his temperament, Alan looked very different from before, much more haggard and decadent. From a distance, he looked like a 35-year-old laid off in the middle of life. He was very different from the energetic him I remembered. A bit of surprise flashed across his face, and he curled his lips. "Long time no see," he said. "Is my daughter Laura?" Our eyes met, but I didn't hear his inner voice this time. Instead, "I heard you were married a long time ago, but I didn't expect your daughter to be so big." Laura spoke before I did. "Sorry, Uncle. I bumped into you." Alan looked stunned for a moment, then finally reached out, touched Laura's head, leaned down, and smiled. "It's okay, Laura. Remember not to run. So quick next time. Manager Wong will take Laura to the children's playground over there to play." I nodded and told Laura a few words. Actually, before I came back, I had already talked in detail about Alan's current situation. The impact and blow of Rena's incident on Alan was huge. Later, the Du family shifted their support to his cousin, giving him the position. As for Alan, he could only be treated coldly and awkwardly by the Du family now. The once favored son of heaven had become a marginal figure. Love was gone, his career failed, and the heavy, gloomy atmosphere weighed on him so terribly. Even though he was still in the prime of his life. "Hello, 1 cup of Robusta and 1 cup of Capra, please." "Thank you. No, please change Robusta to Vienna," Alan asked with a smile. "Change your taste. I remember you didn't like these sweet coffees before." I shook my head. "My husband always said Robusta has a lot of caffeine, and drinking too much hurts the stomach, so he always changed it to Vienna." After drinking it for a long time, I also started to like sweet coffee. It's good. "I saw your wedding scene. It was very romantic. Was it the famous castle in Switzerland?" "I happened to be on a business trip at that time, so I went to see it. By the way, the Du family has no business in Switzerland, but I didn't expose it. I just smiled, and we greeted each other like ordinary friends would. Would you mind approving my friend request?" I put down my coffee cup and smiled faintly at Alan. "No, I know what you mean. You don't have to take it too seriously. For me, that's a thing of the past. Besides, it was obviously you who lost face. I loved you, but I don't anymore. I have a happy family husband who loves me and a lovely daughter. I'm living a whole new life. I'm not interested in reconnecting with the wrong person from the past. Alan, if you miss it, you miss it. Love or hate it, doesn't matter. My overly calm expression hurt him. His eyes were slightly red when I turned to leave. When I went back to find Laura, Manager Wong was holding a fairy tale book reading it. Attentively, only when I approached did Laura look up and ask, "Mom, have you read The Little Prince? The fox is so good." Why did the little prince choose the rose in the end? Because it's the only rose he carefully nurtured. Laura's eyes were blank, and I smiled, taking her hand. When Laura grows up a little more, she'll understand what I mean. Alan had been very quiet all the time. But when we left the mall, he gave Laura a brand new copy of The Little Prince. Our nodded goodbyes through the car window. When our eyes met then, I still couldn't read his heart. It was as if I was back to the very first time we met. The car slowly drove away from that place, leaving the figure of the old friend behind. I embraced my daughter's soft body. That was my last act of revenge. I gave him a gentle, decent exit. From now on, memories will be the only way for us to meet. I will replace Rena and become the lover Alan has been searching for his whole life. In Alan's world, the lover he can never have isn't a rainstorm, but a long dampness, a perpetual gloom that traps him forever. On calm days, a storm will always be waiting to erupt. I used to be a fox in a red rose, but now I am just a little prince who has finished his journey. My daughter held the phone and tugged at me. "Mom, Dad wants to talk to you." And so the story ends.